Thank you for watching this Bridgewater Now update. I'm John Luck. Bridgewater continues the cleanup process from a storm that brought 2 feet of snow last weekend. Of course, that's depending on where you measure. 50 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts blew the snow around, causing whiteout conditions for most of last Saturday, making driving nearly impossible for everybody. Snowdrifts approaching 5 feet left cars only being recognizable by their windshield wipers alone. Unfortunately, Mother Nature has more in store for us this weekend, including the potential for turning the town into a big old sheet of ice. Jeff Fowler's here with more, and we don't typically see these prolonged potential for freezing rain and ice.
Well, that is true, John. This will be an interesting winter storm threat for sure. Before we talk about what's going to be going on, let's do a quick recap of what we just went through. Of course, that was the blizzard last weekend, and some interesting statistics. 4 major communities experiencing blizzard conditions. Marshfield for up to 10 hours. The Vineyard, a little over 9 hours. Worcester, a little over 8 hours, a little over 7 hours in Boston, of some very strong winds and very heavy snowfall. That's what we had last weekend. Bit of a different threat coming up for really overnight tonight into your Friday. Rain and fog arriving tonight. It's been showery off and on during parts of the day, but that steady rain is going to be coming in here. The fog's already coming in as we speak. And then we transition to icy commutes on Friday, especially the afternoon commute, though I'm not sure the morning commute is going to be much of a bargain either. We do have a nice weekend, though, to look forward to. Some dry weather there. So if you think about doing some skiing, for example, it should be good weather for that. 45 degrees outside the Beachview studio right now. Light rain and fog in our area. And we're generally in the 40s across most of southern New England. A little bit cooler out to the far west. You're saying, Jeff, all right, it's 40s. It's raining. What's the big deal? Well, we do have some of that steadier and heavier rain coming in, as you see on radar. And if you look very carefully, far to north and west, you start to see some pink and blue colors showing up. That pink color is going to be dominating the radars as we get towards tomorrow. It's because we have that cold weather starting to sink down that we talked about earlier this week. We have an elongated front with several waves of low pressure on there. We've got quite a bit of a snow and ice storm going on across the Midwest right now. And all of that is now shifting off to the north and east. It's not really the snow for us that we're concerned about, but it is this ice. So as we fast forward to tomorrow morning, we can see that ice, freezing rain, and sleet lining up and down the East Coast. This is kind of a rare event for us. It's not something we see very often. Sometimes we might see a quick change from snow to sleet to rain. Maybe you see a little bit of a sleet or ice at the very end of a system sometimes, especially in the spring. But rarely do we go through a duration of 5-6 hours of freezing rain and sleet steadily happening. And I think that's what's going to happen here as we get really mid to late morning on Friday through Friday afternoon, even the early evening hours. So it's kind of important to know whether we're getting freezing rain or sleet. The impacts can be drastically different. First things first, we do have winter storm warnings in effect for central Massachusetts, points north, all of northern New England. That's really because we are going to see on top of all this sleet and ice, probably about 6 inches or more of snowfall up there. We may actually see a couple of inches of snow down here. Believe it or not, if we go to snow earlier tomorrow, the impacts may actually be less because snow, you can plow very easily, you can brush it away, it's no big deal. But ice accumulation is an entirely different issue. So if you end up with just 1/10 of an inch of ice to maybe a 1/4 of an inch, you can start to see impacts. As a matter of fact, you start to see, your windshields get coated. You start to see slippery travel, light ice forming on the roadways. The overpasses, the bridges can get really slick in those situations. Once you get to 1/4 to 1/2 an inch in ice, now you're talking about tree limbs falling. Now you're talking about the icy roads, the dangerous travel. Power outages are likely. And if you ever get to the point where you're over 1/2 an inch of ice accretion, you're pretty much shutting down. I mean, roads are impassable. Power outages are likely of crippling conditions. The problem with freezing rain, which is what we're probably going to get tomorrow, is you really can't treat it. You can't pre-treat the roads because the rain is coming down and it's melting any of the salt and grime away. So you can't really do that. You really have to treat the roads as everything is happening. And so you already have the icy conditions before you can do any treatment. And that's why freezing rain can be very difficult to treat. How much ice is possible? Well, This is also a rare map we don't usually see in southern New England, but we see there's definitely a chance of up to a half an inch of ice across most of the area, and even 3/4 of an inch, good chunk of Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York State. Bridgewater, we're going to be close. I mean, I think that the risk is there for us to see up to a half an inch of ice tomorrow. And so that's something we really have to be careful with, because certainly the possibility exists for some disruption in travel and maybe even dangerous travel at some points tomorrow. Again, we don't want to overhype. We don't want to scare anybody. We just want to give you the reality that this is a high-risk forecast, and if you do get several inches of freezing rain, all bets are off as far as traveling. We'd be better off if we switched to sleet a little easier, or again, snow. And so a lot of this is going to be nowcasting, and we'll just have to kind of monitor things as they go. As for tonight, it's primarily rain. Temperatures, I'd say mid-30s. They'll actually be rising a bit towards midnight. It's colder out to the north and west, so up towards southern New Hampshire, for example, could already be icing over by that point. Now, tomorrow, don't focus so much on the highs, because after midnight, we might be in the 40s, but temperatures are going to be plummeting all day, and there's going to be a crash at some point where we go from high 40s to high 20s at the snap of a finger, and that's where you could see a flash freeze as well. So that's really what we have to monitor here. Temperatures generally in the mid-20s here should do it. So again, it is pretty icy here. For your Friday, that's what we've got. And we do clear out. Saturday and Sunday does look nice. Early next week, it's going to get a little funky here. We may have the threat of another small snowstorm here, but we got plenty of time to watch that. That's not a guarantee. And so we'll watch it as we go through the next several days.
All right, thanks, Jeff. As I mentioned, we asked you for your storm photos during and after the blizzard, and we thank everybody who sent in a pic, including Francis Jeffries and Labor Talk producer Don Sheehan, who had similar ideas as Mother Nature turned the state and the town into a snow globe outside. Karen sent us this photo from her porch, and Leslie showed us that maybe a while before those Adirondack chairs in the yard are going to be used. Carmen sent us this picture that everybody I'm sure can sympathize with, as the snow at this point was halfway up the tire. I'd imagine by the end it probably got almost up to the hood. We also got a couple of pics after the storm from Suzanne showing that you can have fun in the snow if you have 2 legs, like these kids repping the Packers and Titans, or 4 legs like this pooch who maybe thought the weather might have been a little rough outside. Get what I did there? We thank everybody who sent in the photos. If we get another winter storm, we'll certainly use any photos that you get, again, if it's safe to do so. You may remember a few weeks ago we told you about a vote among the member communities of the BP Technical School and whether the cities and towns would want to fund its share of the $305.6 million project that would build a new school near the existing site. Absentee ballots are available at the town clerk's office for residents of Bridgewater and will be available during normal office hours, which are Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Friday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. There is a late night availability on February 11th until 8 p.m., and originally there was an election date of January 29th for the vote in those cities and towns, but they all wrote the MSBA to push back that vote to March 5th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. According to the school's website, the estimated annual tax impact on the average single-family home in Bridgewater would be $131, while in Rainham it would be $217. Berkeley would have the highest impact at $285 and Rehoboth the lowest of $110. You can vote on Saturday, March 5th, again from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Mitchell at the Middle, also known as the Old High School on Mount Prospect Street. And absentee ballots are available if you'll be out of town during polling hours, if you have a physical disability, or you're observing religious beliefs. There are a couple of deadlines to watch out for, and the deadline for absentee ballot by mail is March 1st, and the deadline for in-person absentee voting is March 4th at noon. For more information, visit the Town Clerk section on the town's website, bridgewaterma.org. And finally, let's get a check of sports, and the BR girls basketball team is continuing its success, picking up win number 8 and improving their conference record to a perfect 4-0. They beat Dartmouth 62-39 last Friday night, but this was a significant game because head coach Cheryl Seavey won her 100th game at the regional. The coach has 212 wins overall, including her time in Middleborough, but the team hit the gas in the fourth quarter of this one, outscoring Dartmouth 16-2. Natalia Hall-Rosa has had a fantastic month of January and continues to do so with 25 points, 4 boards, and 6 steals. Reese Bartlett had 12 and Fiona Kelly had 11 in the victory. The Lady Trojans connected on 9 shots from three-point range and were a plus 10 on the boards. In a programming note, you can watch BSU's basketball teams continue jockeying for a position in the MASCAC standings as they host Salem State. Replays are available on Channel 98 and online at btvaccess.com. Thanks for watching this update. I'm John Luck.